Hello out there in YouTube land. My name is Leonard. I'm here reviewing a book, and hopefully you'll like my review. Today I'm reviewing Churchill, The End of Glory. It's a, quote, political biography. It's a very old book by a John Charmley, if I'm getting that name correct. So the title, it says, The End of Glory. And what does that mean? The British Empire ceased, literally, to exist after World War II. World War I was damaging enough to England and the British Empire. It still managed to hang on, but World War II was the end, essentially, of the British Empire. All its colonies, all the land under all of the sun, would no longer be under British rule. It took a few years after the war to be literal about it, but it was the war, World War II, that ended that. England did survive World War II, and it wasn't occupied. It was able to fight on various fronts with its allies, Russia and the USA, but it did suffer that loss. It was no longer the power, and will never probably be that power again. It's still strong, but it's certainly not an empire of any substantialness anymore. So, what about Churchill? First of all, it's a common politically correct term to say white privilege, but if there is such a thing, Churchill certainly had it. He was born into the right family at the right time. He had a lot of relatives in power, his father included. They were the power elite of the time. His life itself was both greatness and kind of foul. He drank a lot. He was not the most moral person. I'm reading in between the lines, he seemed to have a few affairs. But he was a good family man. He kept his wife and his kids, afloat. They never had to be hungry or anything like that. One of his strengths, which I like a lot, is that he was a sensational writer. Some of the books that he's written, some of the series, not even single books, but series, he wrote History of the English-Speaking Peoples. That book has been in publication since 1950. Since it was released, that book has been continuous publication. It's got to be a really good book. It's 4 volumes. It's a long read. I actually plan to buy that and perhaps one day review that as well. He also wrote a very detailed, I believe, 7-volume story of the history of World War II, which started for the UK in 1939 for the American viewers, and that 1941. So yes, he did have some personal issues. He was not the most healthy person. He drank a lot. He did not eat well. It's amazing how people in history did such things, and he's not the only one, but a lot of people are like that. He also made a lot of blunders. If you're out there worrying about if you are successful or not, Winston Churchill is of course considered one of the most successful people of all time, but he made a lot of military errors that cost a lot of people's lives, and a lot of goods and a lot of personnel, a lot of material was lost, and he did this in multiple locations. His key idea is that you can think your way through it all the time, which works perhaps on a larger scale, but in various battles, people in the military need certain equipment, certain backup, certain training perhaps, and such things were not there for all the battles that England had to fight, the UK had to fight. And they weren't always available, to be fair to him, but to send people in sometimes without such backing is not a good thing to do. He did make those blunders, but overall, he made the right decisions. And he saved England when nobody was there to help them. When the Hitler army was attacking all over, and even before they were at war with Russia, the UK was threatened. But they managed to persevere. They managed to hang on, and it was because of Winston Churchill that they were able to do that. His key strengths which I admire, and I'm sure a lot of other people out there admire, is his public speaking ability. If you ever listen to a recorded message from him, and you should, and I should as well, you can feel the power. You can feel the power of his voice being transferred into you. He's a very powerful speaker. He's also a very good negotiator. He had to deal with the aims of Russia at war with Germany and with the United States, two different presidents also, not just one leader, but two different presidents, their agendas as well as a congressional agenda. You know, in Russia, at least you're dealing with one individual during a wartime. In the US, you're dealing with one individual, then a second individual in office, because the first one died, Franklin Roosevelt. And then, of course, Congress, and you have to meet all those people. He was able to negotiate back and forth the best he could with the limited power that he still had. So, it is a long book. It's a very thick book, as you can see here. It's going to take an average reader a little bit longer to read than normal. But if you can find it, I would highly recommend it. And if this is the only book you read about Churchill, this might be the one, because it's not putting him in star status. It's making him a regular man who became a star. So that's the review. Tell me what you think about Churchill. Do a thumbs up if you can. Share it, whatever's good. And tell me what you're reading. And if you're really crazy, volunteer to send me some nonfiction historical books. I'm Leonard. Thank you very much for watching my YouTube, and have a great day.